Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Lappin. Hey, I'm Joseph Lappin. Hope you guys having a great Monday afternoon. Welcome into the Real. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate that on the way in here. Everybody hit the like button for me, and yeah, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning into the Real. And like I said, please subscribe. And so I went live Saturday. We had a great show. Broke down a lot of stuff regarding Deshaun Watson, some of the news there, and also Jarvis Landry, the comments he made. I have a little more insight on Jarvis Landry. I'm going to share with you guys in a minute that I received from somebody who would know that was there. And I'm also, you could see the main topic of the show. We're going to talk about, obviously, the NFL draft. Some rumors there today from, I know from the ESPN. Tony Grossi said some things in ESPN Cleveland I thought were interesting. There was some mock drafts put out from Mel Kiper, and there's some rumors out there what the Browns may be looking to do. So I'm gonna get into it. What I think the Browns will be doing there in the draft, and then on the back end of the show, we're gonna get into some real life conversation and kind of have a great conversation about you guys seen the viral clip of Maryland's women basketball coach in the tournament, Brenda Frese. She went viral for talking to a player during the middle of a game, and you can read her lips and kind of what she said to the players. I thought that was pretty cool. So we're gonna get into that as well and have a great conversation about that and just coaching and beyond sports and all that. So I guess let's start with getting my guy up here, the man himself. He now has his own channel, Humble Man MMA, Humble's Corner. So go subscribe to him. I put that in the last show, so make sure you go subscribe to him and show him some love. And he's going to put out some great content, and he's got a great passion for UFC and everything MMA. So if you're into that, definitely go give him go subscribe to him and show him some love. And the man himself, Humble's in the building. Humble, what's up?
What's going on, everybody?
The man is here. You had some fights over the weekend. You had actually gave some content, or did you put out some clips of it, or you were? What's your thoughts on them?
Couple shorts. It was actually a really good main event. If anyone watched it, 145ers featherweight, to see who will fight the champion Volkanovski, 37 years old. So it was really cool for me to watch that. I really like that division, so it was really it's fun for me to watch.
Now, I'm looking forward to Saturday's fight. Adesanya and Joe Pyfer. I think that'll be a good fight. You could have put that on the White House card. I think that
You definitely could have. You definitely
I
could
think
have.
that's gonna be a great fight. But yeah. But shout out to you and go subscribe to his channel. Again, his name right there. That's his username. So just type that in right there. And I didn't have to put it up here because it's right there. So just type that in, Humble Man MMA, and go subscribe to him. But Humble, let's get into it. So we talked about this Jarvis Landry stuff last week, and or Saturday last week. Well, Saturday. It surfaced last week, and I shared some my thoughts on it, what I thought Jarvis would be talking about. So Jarvis obviously shared about his time in Cleveland with Stefanski, how he felt about Stefanski. Number one, Leonard Fournette, you could tell he dislikes Stefanski totally. He didn't hide that at all. He didn't play for him, but he doesn't like the guy. But Jarvis Landry, I thought made some interesting comments, just kind of talking about he felt like there was disconnect between the players in the locker room, or the players and the coaches at one point, and blah, 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 and all this. And he said that Alex Van Pelt, the OC at that time, was calling plays for Kevin. Now, Jarvis was only there in 20 and 21 with Kevin, so that's 2 years. Well, in 2020, that was a pretty good year. They made the playoffs for the first time, and there wasn't really a whole lot of beef going on. I never saw Alex Van Pelt call plays other than the COVID game because, Kevin had to because Kevin was in his basement with COVID. So, but other than that, so it had to be in 2021 that Jarvis was referring to that Van Pelt allegedly called plays and his eyes on off. Well, I reached out to some people that were in the building there at that time on the staff, and I'll just leave it at that know more than I think Jarvis Landry would about it, just because I think when you're in those meetings, you see everything, and that's just my speculation. Not saying Jarvis may not know or may not know. Jarvis may be right. Jarvis was in the building, and I loved Jarvis when he was here. I thought he was a great player, and
100%.
I liked the dude. I thought he was a hell of a leader when he was here. So I'm not pushing back against Jarvis by any means, but what he said, I was told that. Well, I'm gonna play the clip first. Here's what Jarvis said over the weekend that is buzzing today over the weekend on Twitter in the Cleveland Sphere. So here's what Juice had to say.
So you telling me that record he deserved two-time coach of the year? Maybe he got it because He was coaching the Cleveland Browns.
His first year he came in.
Yeah.
We made some noise.
Yeah.
Obviously, the years before we hadn't had no success at all. So it was. I do think it was fitting and well deserved. I know when I was there for 100% fact, when we were struggling as an offense, I know Kevin Stefanski himself gave up play calling to AVP. The same thing that he's done, that we have guys that have told us that he's done throughout the years of not being able to get it done as a play caller and then putting it off on somebody else. Then the team gets success and then he takes over play calling again. I don't know how much history he's going to have as a head coach. But again, with this record, only thing he really got going for him is those 2-time coach of the year.
Now, he said a mouthful there, Humble, obviously. And I think it's 2 parts he mentioned there. We'll break it down. But the first part he mentioned about, let's start with, he only got the coach of the year because he was coaching the Browns, is what he said. I get what they were saying. They were a mess before he got there. The Browns were 1-31 with Hugh Jackson. They hired Freddie Kitchens, brought in Odell, went south that year when that was a complete disservice to that team, that coaching staff that year, and the way they managed everything. And even Todd Monken, who was on the staff, said so. Anyway, obviously Stump was on my show and broke that down where they went wrong there that season. And then in 2020, you bring in Kevin Stefanski, and things looked really good that year. There didn't seem a whole lot of beef going on. I mean, earlier in the year, it looked like, were they getting Odell the ball enough, blah, blah, blah. But he had some good games against the Bengals week 1. He had the breakout game against the Cowboys. Remember that? And then he unfortunately got hurt. But they still went on and made the playoffs that year, and Baker looked really good. He was efficient. He was winning games like on the road in Cincinnati on clutch time. I mean, they really should have beat the Chiefs, honestly. Yeah. Chad Henne in that game.
Yeah.
They went to the AFC Championship, we're being honest. So they
Mahomes
dominated.
Was out.
Yeah, I mean, dominated Pittsburgh. Like, that was a great year for the Browns. You're thinking, okay, they could build off of this and come back that next year. And maybe
if it was any year, there was no fans in the crowd. I mean, those are across.
Now, here's why I think that year worked well. And so the person that was in the building, so to go off of that year, right, after those comments he made about why he got coach of the year, is because he was with the Browns. I do think there is some validity to that. I have defended Kevin in some areas where I think Kevin didn't have full autonomy the whole time he was here, where I think people above him in the organization had more power than him and influence. And I think people in the media knew about that, and that's why they kind of favored him. And because it was the Browns, because they have been so bad for so long. But I think in 2020, he did deserve it. Now, 2023, some people think DeMeco Ryans deserved it, and some people maybe say that. I think he got it because the Flacco thing and all that. But I think 2020 for sure, that was who Kevin Stefanski, I think, really is. I think he could be a solid NFL coach who can help, who can run a team. And have an efficient offense. I just think he got away from that in 21 by being too passive, not standing up for what was right, playing musical chairs with his coaching staff after that year. And I even had somebody who, again, because Jarvis went on to say that, and again, so Jarvis was there in 2020. He was there in 2021. So in 2021, that was the year Baker got hurt, remember? He was on a big year for Baker. Are they going to pay him, right? And the season didn't go as people wanted it to. It went south. They missed the playoffs. Odell got traded or forced his way out in the middle of the year. There was a lot of drama. The season didn't go great. They started off okay, and then it kind of went south after that, And so I'm assuming Jarvis is saying, because we never saw, why would Kevin give up play calling in 2020? Because he didn't have to, other than the time he was, he wasn't there. But so I think what Jarvis is saying, it would have to be in 2021 that he gave up play calling. Well, all those weeks that we've watched, I never saw anybody else but Kevin with the play sheet, the Waffle House menu in his hand. I like, I know Jason Lloyd said today he was told that sometimes Van Pelt would script plays out of the half, which I think that's probably not uncommon for some spots, but. I reached out to somebody who was there in the meetings and knows everything that went on there and was part of all that. And they said, well, this is what they said. quote, well, he never gave up play calling his first year. AVP called during the playoff win against Pittsburgh because Kevin was home with COVID. I thought he was a heck of a play caller his first year because we ran the football more. He probably still heard Coach Zimmer from his Viking days in his head. I thought it became predictable as a play caller each year to follow. He should not have won the second coach of the year. And this is somebody who was there. But they said, and I clarified with him later on, and they said he never gave up play calling Humble the second year. That it never he never gave up play calling. So they thought his first year he was a heck of a play caller. So and then they went on. I asked about the comments he made on the first show about the disconnect between the coaches and the players, and they said from their knowledge they disagree with the statement of disconnect for the most part, other than when he made Drew Petzing, who was the tight ends coach the first year that we went to the playoffs, the quarterbacks coach, and then they took the quarterbacks coach, put him in the tight end room. He feels like that's where disconnect got apparent, and they believe that Baker loved TC McCartney, who was the quarterbacks coach, who he swapped coaches with in 21, and he believes that Baker loved TC better than Drew, but Kevin put Drew in the position to get an OC job while taking it away from TC, and so that's what this for me. And they actually, it sounds like a lot of the disconnect was actually with the defensive side of the ball, and that some of the defensive side of the ball players like Jadeveon Clowney and some other people, which I think Clowney kind of made that very known that year, he wasn't happy. And this person basically wanted to tell me that so at one point Kevin was kind of telling Joe Woods what to do defensively. So, that's what I heard what was going on. That's from somebody that was in the meetings and was there every day, and they would know everything. So, and that there were some, and they wanted to say, yes, some receivers did have some issues with Chad O'Shea, maybe because of his personality, they didn't jive with him. That's what I was told. So, but I was told again that didn't happen. He never gave up plays to Van Pelt during that 2-year span when Jarvis was here. So I don't know. Maybe Jarvis knows something we all don't know. That maybe this person don't know. But I know this person was in the meetings, and I clarified with him. I was like, "So you're telling me that he never gave up play calling to Van Pelt?" And they said he never gave up play calling his first year, and that I don't think it ever happened. So I don't know. Maybe something happened the second year that nobody knows about, but I don't know, Humble. I found this all interesting, but I know he said a mouthful. And this coach went on to tell me as well that they believe the disconnect with Kevin and the players really started after the loss to the Texans. Because a couple of days after that, they fired out the whole offensive staff of Van Pelt, Stump Mitchell, and Bill Callahan pretty much was allowed out the door. So I know it's a mouthful there. I said it's a lot to break down, but in essence, let me repeat kind of general for you guys. I reached out to somebody on these statements who was there, and they said that Kevin never gave up play calling to Van Pelt from their knowledge, and they were there, and that the real disconnect was more defensively with the players on the defensive side of the ball with Joe Woods, and that Kevin actually had to pretty much tell Joe Woods what to do defensively at one point, and then after that, that's when Joe Woods was let go. He had to fire Joe Woods, and then they said there was no way in hell he ever told Jim Schwartz what to do defensively. So, but that also the real disconnect too was also when he swapped Drew Petzing, I believe his name, Drew Petzing, or he was a tight ends coach 2020 with TC McCartney, who was a quarterbacks coach. Once he swapped their position groups, that was kind of a disconnect there too, because Baker thrived. He liked TC a little more and worked well with him, but sounds like Kevin put Drew in there because he wanted him to get the OC job, which he eventually did with the Cardinals. So, yeah. So that's what I heard on that, Humble, from a good source, a very good source that was there and solid every day. So, and they thought Kevin was actually a good play caller his first year, and they just feel like the years after is when he just kind of went away from what he was good at, which makes sense, because you think about it, Humble, in 2020. They weren't in the building a lot because of COVID. So there was no influence from the top on the coach because they were all at home. So he could do whatever he wanted most of that year. When did shit start going south? once people got back in the building in 2021, shit went south. But your thoughts, Humble?
I believe it. I believe it. That's all I got, man.
All right. He said he believes. That's it.
That's it, man.
That's it. Parent John, good to see. He said Kevin didn't have players' backs. He was just all about himself. I've heard from same people and that I heard this information from about that parent. I've heard stories of Kevin that he would walk to the locker room and not say a word to anybody and just go sit in his office. Like, not hello. No, he just walk right through, go sit in his. I think when I gathered and understand about Kevin, he's a nice guy. He understands offense, like Jarvis said. Not a bad coach in some areas. I just think as a head coach, when it comes, it's more than X's and O's. You got to know how to lead and manage and communicate. And I think Kevin can be. I think from stories I've heard, it seemed that he was a little passive at times, and I think didn't really stand up for what he knew was right. Which Jarvis kind of mentioned that part about the analytics side of it. That how heavy the analytics are in that building. That Kevin had to kind of go along with things, even though he knew it wasn't for the best interest of the football team. So, I think that's maybe where Kevin maybe kind of hurt himself at times and lost respect in the locker room, being honest with you. So, but I feel like it's from this person, he really lost after that Texans loss because they felt like the preparation up to that Texans game in 23, Humble, when they had Joe Flacco, remember that playoff game, they feel like the preparation wasn't the greatest, game plan wasn't the best as it could have been. And this is something that was part of it. So, saying this, so yeah,
I remember that game.
So, but that's all I got on that. I'll put a bow on that with Jarvis Landry. I think Jarvis is. I think somebody put out a tweet today. I don't know if it was Ben Axelrod or somebody said that Jarvis is learning that you can get a lot of views when you start talking about the Browns. So he's definitely. I never knew about this podcast till he made these comments. So shout out to Jarvis. But moving on, NFL Draft, Humble. It's right around the corner. A little over a month away. So the Browns, like it says in there in the thumbnail, they're on the clock. They are on the clock. And I got some more stuff I think the Browns are thinking about the quarterback position. I'm going to get to in a minute from the same person who's close with Todd Monken. I'll just leave it at that. And I think has a sense of what could happen. That Texans game plan was so bad. Yeah. And from people there, they even said Parent John, the prep was not good. That Kevin mismanaged some things in that, but yeah, it sucks. They got blown out. But anyway, so hopefully some better times now, though. So moving on to the draft, though, I got some more stuff I'll share in a minute on what I think they could be thinking with the quarterback position here in the future. But they have the 6th pick, Humble. We talked about it Saturday with the chat. Could they go receiver? Could they go offensive line? Right. I know you said you like to go more receiver, right?
Correct.
And why is that? For your
fans like Jerry Jeudy, I don't know how I feel about him.
So you want more excitement out there?
Yeah, I need a little bit more. Like, imagine if we had a hometown. I know he's not hometown, but like a Ohio State Buckeye and Marvin Harrison Jr. You know how cool that would be.
So there was some buzz out there today, Humble, about what they could be doing, right? And so Tony Grossi said this morning that at 24, or his latest mock, I don't know if it was this morning, but his latest mock at 24, so they have the 6th pick. At 24, he has the Browns taking offensive tackle. And he said Caden Proctor, Alabama, and he says comment was O-line coach George Warhop likes behemoths. And so he has offensive tackle at 24. I don't know who he had at 6. I got to go look. But I think if you're taking a tackle at 24, that means you're taking a receiver at 6 in this scenario. So, and I like Caden Proctor. I think Caden Proctor might be the most talented in terms of like raw ability, in terms of athleticism in this draft, in terms of and what I mean in this draft, an offensive lineman. He's one of the most fascinating prospect and one of the most athletic. I mean, at one point last year, but they had him lined out a receiver in a formation and catch a pass at Alabama. He's that athletic and he's that big of he's a behemoth of a dude, like you mentioned there. Dude's a freak. Now, is he the most technically sound at the left tackle position? No. I think, Monroe Freeling from Georgia, I think is probably, in my opinion, the most pure left tackle in this draft. I think he's the most pure left tackle prospect. Spencer Final's a very good tackle prospect as well, but I like Freeling. But some people feel like if you take Freeling at 6, that's too high, that the value doesn't equal the pick because he has kind of risen up boards after the combine more. He was already a late first. From a lot of what I saw, he was kind of mid-late first. And after the combine, he's really shot up boards now where people are like, could he be taken at the 6th pick? Some people say that's too high. I would say the value of that position is a top 10 position, obviously, in terms of draft selection. So you could justify it if you feel like he is the guy. And you're banking on, you have George Warhop now in the building, one of the better offensive line coaches, right? But some people think maybe Carnell Tate, like you just mentioned, Humble, Ohio State Buckeye receiver, maybe he's the guy they should go with. Maybe he's the guy that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of people think he is a top 15 talent. Or maybe Mekhi Lemon out of USC, who a lot of people think is also a top 15 talent, who I like a lot too. Now, Mel Kiper put out his mock draft on the 17th. So last week, his latest mock draft. He had the Browns taking Monroe Freeling at the 6th pick. He has Mekhi Lemon fall all the way to 24. So he sees it a lot differently than a lot of people projected it. He sees the value higher with Freeling, which I could see why, because the left tackle position is a higher value than receiver. And he thinks Mekhi Lemon's going to fall out of the top 15 all the way down to 24. Now, I'll just tell you this. If the Browns got both of these guys, Humble, I would be doing backflips that night. Yeah. I would be very excited if they got both of these guys. I don't know. I get the sense right now, though, that I don't know, man. I feel like they're gonna take Freeling first if they feel like he is the left tackle of the future. I know there's a lot of such a projection. I think there is some of these guys have insight. Like I think Mel Kiper talks to, from what I know, he does talk to like certain GMs or people in organizations, kind of get a feeling of what they're doing, and he just kind of projects that. I think Tony Grossi does probably have some insight of what maybe they're thinking or what they're feeling on certain players, but I think the Browns are usually, since under Andrew Berry, have always kept things very close to the vest. So I think they go left tackle first, Humble, because they didn't address it in free agency or the draft, or in free agency and trade. And I think they just go with the best receiver available at 24. I'm curious your thoughts.
I'd honestly agree, just because, you want to keep, if Watson's going to start, you want to keep him protective and see how he looks. I look at it from that perspective, and I think of Shedeur in the future if we need him. Yeah, I would keep them protected. And then you already got that tight end, which I'm very high on. I think he could be better than David Njoku. I don't know how you feel about that, but yeah, I agree, Joe.
Yeah, so you think, what are you saying, take a tight end?
No, I'm just saying, who's that tight end that we picked up? I think
Cannon?
Right. I think he can be better than Njoku, and he's only gonna get better. You know what I mean?
I got you. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was looking at two things, and when I was listening to you, and I'm thinking in my head too, of like, because I'm thinking all different scenarios. You know what I mean? It's like, because this is fascinating, and I'm curious what you guys think. Parent John already put it. He said trade back and draft Tate. I know that's a big thing. The Browns love to trade back if it's a good trade. It worked out for them last year when they traded back. I hated it at the time, but then once I saw who they got and then seeing it this year play out, I was like, it was actually a great trade. Could they trade back? It may make more sense, because if they like Monroe Freeling, let's say, but they feel like he maybe is the 12th pick rather than the 6th pick, could they call Dallas, right? Because if Dallas wants to move up, Dallas has 6 and 24. Or 12 and 20. I'm talking about our picks. Dallas has 12 and 20. So who knows what you could do there, right? I got the 6th pick. How bad do you want to move up? I'll move back to 12 and maybe get my left tackle there. And maybe I can move up to 20 and I get the receiver right there. Maybe get both of these and walk away with both of these guys. If the Browns somehow walked away with both of these guys, that's a grand slam draft, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So I think Andrew Berry's going to have to find a way to get creative. And I think it's going to have to depend also, how do these other teams feel about both of these? You know, because I do think Freeling seems to be the left tackle they like the most. Now, will they take him at 6? That's to be determined. Maybe they feel like, now, how much does he separate from Caden Proctor and Spencer Fano? That's the one key element, you know what I mean? Because they feel like, okay, maybe he's not a 6th pick. We'll just take the receiver. If they feel like Tate and Lemon are about 1A, 1B, and they kind of just pick off of who they think's a better fit, and that they are top 15 talents, that's maybe where they go. Another whole scenario in this, Humble, they could go defense, which I know people don't want to hear that, but and I haven't heard anything, but you know, if they feel like, because they do need a free safety, you know, if Caleb Downs they feel like is like too good to pass on, then that may factor in it too. I don't know.
Right.
So, but I'm assuming they're going to go offense. I think they've made it clear they're putting all the resources in the offense, the higher ones, you know. So I don't think they're even going to consider Caleb Downs personally. Now, could Dallas or some? I'm not saying. I'm just throwing out a scenario. Could another team like Dallas, let's say, with those kind of picks in the first round, or in that range of picks of 10 to 15, what if they want to move up to get Caleb or whoever? That makes a lot of sense for the Browns, maybe to trade down and get an additional pick. So I'm not sure. I like Monroe Freeling. I like Mekhi Lemon. I like Carnell Tate. Obviously, I love Carnell. He's a Buckeye, but I get a feeling I think Lemon's a better fit for what Todd Monken likes to do. I just feel like his style just fits more of the Todd Monken offense. And I think Monroe Freeling, like I said, I think he's the best left tackle. So that's where I would go with it. Perrin John said there's a major trade coming from the Browns. Andrew likes to surprise us fans on random day. What do you think that trade is, Perrin John? Let me know what you think it's going to be, if you had to guess. Or trade back and draft Monroe. Harold can be an all-pro. Yeah, Harold Fannon's the dude. Harold Fannon probably was the best draft pick so far out of that class last year. There were some good ones. I think he was him or Schwessinger. I think Harold might have been the best one. I don't know. Schwesh was pretty good too, but it's close. But the fact, I'm glad we're having those conversations for once, Humble, because usually we're having conversations about how shitty the draft was. We only nailed 2 guys out of like 8 last year. That's terrible. But we'll see if those guys are even decent next year. You know, that's how it used to be. You know, cross your fingers. But you know what we're gonna do here, Humble? We're gonna do a little mock draft real quick. I got it right here. We're gonna do a mock draft PFF simulator style, and you know, we'll even get a little music going. Where's my music at? Turn up my music. Where's it at? There we go. There we go. We got a little music in the background. I like that better. All right. So there we go, Humble. We're gonna do a first round mock draft real quick. Let's see how this goes. Actually, no, let's do 2 rounds. We'll get a little aggressive. We'll go 2 rounds. So again, we're gonna be the Browns, 6th pick. Now I can't make trades in this scenario. So we're gonna pick it just as 6 and 24. Now my next mock drafts I'll start throwing in more trades and stuff. I must mess around with it and get a little more creative. But let's start here. Obviously, the Raiders are number 1 on the clock. They're probably taking Mendoza, and they do. So here we are, Humble. We're on the clock. And the PFF, they have Ruben Bain here at edge, Francis Moyaka, who was a right tackle, 7, Caleb Downs, Delane, Carnell Tate, Spencer Fano, and Freeland are right here at 13 and 14. And they have Mekhi Lemon all the way down here at 15 average draft, or 14 average draft position, but 15. So in this scenario, Humble, what do you like in here? Are you going to lean more towards Tate and Lemon, or do you want to take one of the tackles with your 6th pick?
Think you do the tackle, right?
You want to go tackle and see what they get a receiver because if I look down the back end of the round, I do have Omar Cooper, who's at 24, who I do like, and then Caden Proctor is right there at 7. So I'll ask you like this, Humble. I know you're still getting into the draft, right? If a guy like Caden Proctor is a physical freak, right? Maybe he's not as technically sound or fundamentally sound as the other top 2 guys yet, but you got George Warhop, are you banking on your coach and take a risk on a guy later in the round who's still very talented, or would you rather take the first sure receiver now, or would you rather just take the first sure tackle now and maybe hope to get because I'll be honest, the receivers at the late round humble aren't great compared to the
Right.
top. They're great, but they're not as good as the top two guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
Are you actually going to get Omar Cooper? That's the thing.
Right. If that's the case, yeah, you might want to actually snag a wideout.
Yeah, I agree. For some reason, I think we're trading for a Buckeye. I don't know which one though. Garrett Wilson, I will say. I think if they trade for one, it's gonna be Marv. Now Marv, I don't know what you use pick 39 for him. Now that would really change a lot of things because if I get Marvin Harrison Jr. humble, I could really take a tackle first.
Oh my God, you could.
Because now I got a guy who I believe can be a number one receiver and just in a better situation, a fresh start, and still on a rookie deal too. He's got 2 years left on it, so.
And he doesn't got a quarterback over there to throw him.
No, he's had shorter guy in Kyler Murray and Jacoby Brissett, who's not bad, but I mean that's not like world beating offense. Let's be honest.
Nah,
so, let's just say though he's not on the table. Let's just say they go with receiver, and I'll let you pick, humble. You like Mekhi Lemon or Carnell Tate?
Am I wrong to say Carnell Tate?
We'll go with Carnell Tate. Why not? Get a little flavor, this whole Buckeye action. So now we're going to go to 24. Okay, now we got Blake Miller and Caden Proctor. All right, so the tackles, there's 2 tackles there I like. So let's go with Caden Proctor since he's the one who's being projected, right? Let's go with him. There is Jordan Tyson there. You could double dip on a receiver. Now, he has some hamstring issues, I believe, some injuries, so I'm not going to take him here. I'm going to go ahead with Caden Proctor.
Yeah.
So now we have one more pick at 39. All right, so here at 39, we have Ty Simpson's there, but they're not taking him. You got Caleb Lamo there, another tackle. Peter Woods, defensive interior. Brandon Sisk, the cornerback. D'Angelo Pons. The highest safety is not. He's a little too low on the board for me. I think right here, I would just go best player that I feel like we need. Who put it in the chat if you're watching? Param John, who we taking here? Param John, put it in the chat. We taking Woods, we taking Lamo, we taking Sisk. Who we like here? Who we like? We taking D'Angelo Pons. We taking Chris Bell, the other receiver, who's when healthy, very good, probably a first round talent. Maybe double dip on receiver. What are we thinking here? You know what I mean? Because the interior we're fine, right? We brought Mason Graham back. All right, we got Mason Graham. We still got some other guys. So I think you're all right there. We just took a tackle. I don't think you're going to double dip on tackle. You still have DeJuan Jones coming back and be a swing tackle for you at the bench. Now, cornerback is interesting. Martin Emerson's coming off an injury. You got Tyson Campbell, who I thought played well last year, but I think your secondary can use a little more help in terms of just depth and speed, personally, especially at safety. D'Angelo Pons there, Chris Bell. I don't know. Nobody wants to make the pick, humble, in the chat, so I guess I'm going to make it. Man, this is a tough one here. This is a tough spot. I'm going to go. Denzel Ward, I love him, but availability is the best ability, humble. And sometimes he hasn't been available. Unfortunately. He's dealt with some, injuries and concussion stuff, unfortunately. So I think in this scenario, you got to have corners nowadays. And we have pass rush, no doubt about it. We have the best pass rusher in the world. So always have corners, I think. I'm going to go with Brandon, I believe his name's Sis here out of South Carolina. And then we'll wrap it out here, give us some grades. And let's see how they graded us. So they gave us A-, A-, and B-. So total B+ overall. So not bad. Not bad at all. So that's our first edition of the mock draft. He said Pons. So you told me too late. I would have took Pons for you. But he's nice as fuck, he says. All right. I went with Sis. Well, let's say they go corner. All right. Pons or Sis. So they went corner. Let's say that. So this is our first edition of the mock draft. I'm going to come back next week with my 2.0 mock draft. I'm gonna have some trades in there for you too, possibly where they could trade down. So we got Carnell Tate at 6, Caden Proctor at 24, and Brandon Sis, the cornerback out of South Carolina, DB at 39.
It'll be interesting to look back at this.
Yeah, imagine we just nailed it right there. That's what they did draft night. But you heard it here first. March 23rd from Humble and I. Humble just guessed too on Carnell Tate. Let's go, Carnell. Yeah, he nailed it. But yeah, so that's what I got on that. Now, Tony Grossi made some other interesting comments today, Humble, on ESPN Cleveland, in terms of the Browns quarterback position. Obviously, that's a big thing right now. We did a show together Saturday, and I broke down a bunch of information about why I think, while what Jarvis said is the reason why I think Deshaun Watson's getting somewhat of a second chance here in Cleveland. And I say somewhat because I do think I was told some stuff over the weekend where I think maybe they're leaning a different direction where they could go with Deshaun. I think with both quarterbacks. But let's start here with what Tony Grossi had to say, and then we'll give our reaction to it. And, Tony Grossi was asked by the morning show, the really big show with usually today it's Chris Holdak and Tony Rizzo, usually Aaron Goldenhair. But they said, what does he have to do to keep the job long term, right? Because there's been a lot of rumors about Arch Manning in 2027, who's coming out next year, and how much Haslam, his connection with the Manning family. Would he try to do whatever to get him, right? What does Shedeur have to do to keep the job past this year? Here's what Tony Grossi had to say.
What does Shedeur have to do to make them not draft a quarterback in the first round next year?
I think even if Watson wins the job, and I don't know how it's going to go, but I think Shedeur will get enough games added to last year, 7 starts last year, and minimum of 7 this year. They'll be able to make an evaluation.
But you think he would need a Drake May year 1 to year 2 look of transformation to make them not look at a quarterback next year?
Yeah. And the record has to be such that getting one of those quarterbacks is going to be difficult.
Win. Maybe even go to the playoffs, for God's sakes, right?
At least 9 and 8.
Flacco did it. What is she?
Now, courtesy of ESPN Cleveland, shout out to them. Humble, here's what I got on this, right? So I asked somebody over the weekend who knows Todd Monken very well, talks to him frequently. What does he have to do to keep this job? This same question, right? And even with Deshaun Watson, what do you think about Deshaun Watson? And here's what I was told, Humble. We'll start with Deshaun first. Here's what I was told. If he has a great preseason and someone gets hurt on a team that is competitive, they would be interested in him. And so what they're talking about, what they told me is right here. They said they think Deshaun will beat Shedeur out. It may lead to him getting traded before the season starts if he has 2 good preseason games, and they think he may. If not, he said they think Deshaun will beat Shedeur out, but they think that ownership is more invested probably in Shedeur Sanders because he's the younger option. He's on a rookie deal, maybe a little more upside right now. And from a business standpoint, Shedeur makes a lot more sense. Let's just be honest. So that's how they pointed it out to me. So
it brings in the young fans too.
Yeah, he sells more jerseys. He's more intriguing. He gives you a fresh start to your organization.
And he has a Southern fan base. Shout out a lot of those guys in Texas. They really love him and enjoy him.
He's got a massive fan base all over. Yeah, and so and he's younger. You're getting with a new coach now, post his rookie year. Like we said, they're kind of redeveloping the development, I think. And he has a fresh start right now. You know what I mean? And I think Deshaun has an opportunity too. And I pointed that out. I think they're giving Deshaun the benefit of the doubt because of some of the stuff Jarvis pointed out what happened in previous years. And, Stump shared that on this show. When the running back coach of the Browns 30 those years, he came on and shared where they went wrong with Deshaun. And it feels like it was a coaching failure in a lot of ways. And so, but this person believes too, it doesn't sound like, I don't get the vibe though, Humble. I think a lot of what Tony Grossi said actually is true. And I don't always agree with everything Tony says. I think sometimes he nails things. Like he nailed that in 2021 when he said the Browns would transition to more of an air raid attack and deep and the analytics were pushing it. That turned out to be true, and Jarvis made that true, and so did a lot of other people. But sometimes I don't agree with some of his takes, but that's okay. But I think in this scenario, though, Humble, I think he's on the money with where I think they are. That's not what I think what I would do. This is what I think they're thinking, and this is based on some conversations I've had, and my gut feeling and following the news and taking the temperature in the room, and following the Browns long before Shedeur got here and how they roll. I think that he has to go out there this year humble and have a monster. I think he has to go out and have I don't know if I'd say Drake May type year, but I think he has to have a damn near all pro year. I think he has to give them no doubt that he's the guy moving forward. And so I think Deshaun will start the season off in preseason. I'll say preseason. I don't know if Deshaun will make it to the regular season on the roster. If that scenario is true, this person pointed out to me, or I think at some point they'll just put Shedeur out there. I think like Tony said, he's going to get X amount of games to prove that he's the guy. So, what do you think he has to prove to you, Hunt? How much do you think he has to show, Humble, from your perspective? That do you think he should get the opportunity or do you think he should get let me ask you this: do you think he should get the starting job from day one, no matter what?
And that's Deshaun?
Yeah. Shedeur. Do you think Shedeur should get the starting job over Deshaun from day one, no matter
Not
what?
off rip, not automatically, no.
Nope.
I think it should always be earned. And then two, I mean, hell,
how much do you think he has to prove to keep the job moving forward?
I think he definitely needs to. I don't think he needs to get to the playoffs. I really don't think. I think that's way too much to assess him off one season. I mean, he didn't even. What's the word I'm looking for? He didn't even have. You can't assess his career off last year, really, because he had bits and glimpses of it. So I say, off this season, I really, if he's, I don't know, it's so hard to say with these guys, man, and how they develop, because some of them need, it might just be this head coach, and Shedeur might come out to be an all-star. I mean, or a Pro Bowl or whatever the case may be. He might come out and look great, you know what I mean, with this new coaching staff. So it's a hard question, tricky question to answer, Joe.
I got you. Let me I always think of Baker, right? Baker Mayfield. So Baker's last season in Cleveland, he was injured, obviously. He played 14 games. He was 253 for 418 attempts, 60% completion, 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Not great.
No.
7.2 average per attempt. He goes to Carolina in 2022, gets beats out Sam Darnold, but was only 57% completion percentage, 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, only 6.4 yards on average. He goes to the Rams for 5 games. Okay, 63% percentage. He looks so he's a little better percentage than he was with the Carolina that year. 850 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Tampa says, we're going to take a flyer on this kid, right? Tampa says, we'll take a flyer on him in 2023. He comes out in 2023, Humble, with finally where I think he has the best coaching besides Sean. He had the short stint with Sean McVay. I think saved his career. It was the best coaching he ever had.
Yeah.
But he finally got a situation in Tampa where they're like, you know what? We're all in on you. This is your year. If you go out there this year and prove that you're the guy, you can have the keys. You'll probably be the guy moving forward. You know what I mean? If you go out there and show us that you're the franchise quarterback, then you can be a franchise guy. We'll make you the guy going forward. We'll pay you. He goes out there, Humble, in 2023 with a better supporting cast, with Mike Evans, obviously, better O-line, and Tristan Wirfs up front. He has a pretty good team defense. Like, the Bucs are a pretty good organization. This is post Brady, so they still have some of those remaining pieces. They got a nice team. They got an NFC South winnable division that year. Kind of sounds a lot like now in some ways. Like, hey, they're going to bring some receivers, right? They're going to rebuild the offensive line. Got a new coach. Defense is still pretty good. Got Myles Garrett over there. You got Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin. You got some pieces. We're slowly building something. So that year, Humble, he comes out. Throws for 64% completion percentage, 4,000 yards, 7.1 yards on average, 28 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and was a lot better that year. Now, he was sacked 40 times, which is a little high, but had a pretty damn good year. They went to the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, in 2023. Baker looked pretty good. 4,000 yards, 28, and then a 28 touchdown to 10 ratio of interceptions. Hey, you can move forward with that guy. And you know what they did? They said, you know what, we're going to roll with this kid. I'm rolling with it. I like this kid. He's got a moxie. We all know Baker is. He's got a little moxie, right? And it's that year, Humble, was very similar to his 2020 season I talked about with Stefanski, where he was solid. You're like, we can roll with this kid, right? You were one win away from the AFC Championship game. And 62% completion percentage that year, 3,500 yards. So less yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions that year. So statistically, he was actually a little better in some areas in 23 than he was in 20. In 2020, we all were like, hey, we're all in on this kid. Yeah. So, I think Baker's a good comparison because then Baker came back in 24, Humble, so now he's got a full year in that system with the coaches. He came back in 24, 71% completion percentage, which is great, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns and 16 interceptions, an MVP type year, almost 7.9 yards average. I mean, that's an MVP caliber season. So, and they balled out, went to the playoffs. Then they've lost.
Knocked out Eagles, didn't they?
Yeah, knocked out the Eagles, and they lost to the Lions. A tough one. So, I think Baker is. I'm looking at it like that. The guy the Browns let go of years ago. I think they're hoping they can get back to him. Now Baker last season, wasn't as good. He still had a decent statistical season, though. I mean, he wasn't terrible. He's 63% completion percentage. His percentage went down a lot, but still 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He could bounce back this year. He's also was on his third OC in Tampa, so I think that probably didn't help either. They're in a transition. They just lost Mike Evans. They're in a little bit of a transition. Chris got so.
And his division got a little better too, Joe.
Yeah.
Bryce, what's his name from Carolina? I think they were first seed over. Yeah, they were first seed over Tampa.
Yeah, they got better. And Canales, the head coach, was his OC the first year. Quarterback guy. Obviously, he did it with Baker. He's doing it with Bryce Young.
Right.
So, but I feel like the table's kind of there's some differences. Obviously, the Browns aren't the stable organization walking in that he walked into in Tampa in 23. By any means, but you got a new coach. You got a proven quarterback guy in Todd Monken. They're building out the offensive line, rebuild. They got all 4 new starters in here. They're going to draft the 5th. They're going to get some weapons in here. You got an all-pro tight end probably in the future. He's going to be he's a bad dude, like you said. You got Quinshon Judkins. So, I think that's the bar I would have. Can he be Baker Mayfield in 2023? I think he could. I think with the right supporting cast, just don't turn the ball over, be efficient. You take some shots down the field. You have better support around you. Maybe not the same statistically, but can you be that kind of guy moving forward? If he is, I think you would just move forward with him because I don't want to have to restart every year with a different quarterback.
Yeah.
So
that's why it's been for too long. Yeah.
Right. And I agree with you. I'm not putting the win-loss record on him because I feel like I'm not putting on either quarterback because this
offense on the organization. I mean, you traded Joe. I mean, it's just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're so bad personnel wise offensively the last 2 years. I can't put that on. And you've been so unstable on that side of the ball, and from a coaching standpoint, I mean, in 24, Mike Vrabel is coaching offensive lineman at one point. So, I mean, he's a defensive guy. So,
yeah.
I can't put that all on the quarterback to win-loss record. I can't expect him to come in here with a new coach, a year one coach, and be like, "You need to lead us to the playoffs." I think that's unfair to him and Deshaun Watson and any quarterback they put in there, rather. So I think I want to see, can you get to that level? Drake may benefit from, I think, a damn good coaching staff and
100%,
and a
100%.
Good. That's a stable organization. So could he get to that level? Maybe. I wouldn't cap it.
Very unlikely. Yeah.
I want to keep the expectations reasonable. Like,
right.
If I can get him to that Baker 23 level, I'm feeling pretty good. I like that. I can move forward with that guy. I can build off of that, and we can build around him, continue to, and he can develop. He'll get even more better with Monken. You have continuity now and stability finally at that position. So, because that's the hardest position all sports develop and implement and cement is that quarterback position. It's so much that goes into that. so much has to happen around them and consistency and stability that it's more than just one guy going out there and just, carrying the whole bandwagon like, fantasy football people think. It's just not reality. Yeah, talented guys overcome that stuff, but, it's hard. Not everybody's those kind of guys. Some guys need that foundation. And everybody, I mean, you don't think Tom Brady benefited from that foundation New England all those years? Damn right he did. So, he was only a 6th-round pick when he came out for a reason. So he benefited from that and he put the work in. So I think, it matters. But yeah. So that's our Browns round tables. I don't know, you want to call, I mean, we got a lot of news everyone go through. Draft, Jarvis, Shedeur. So that's what we got for you guys on that end. Now we got a last segment here for you guys. We're gonna take a quick break and I'm gonna regather my notes, get a sip of water. And we come back, Hummel and I are going to talk about the women's basketball coach, Brenda Frese, who's going viral for her interaction with the player during the NCAA championship. We got some thoughts on it. So stick around. Don't go anywhere.
It's interesting to me. God really did have that plan for me throughout this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It was simply just up to me when I was able to stop playing God. I thought I was the one making things happen. No, God is in control. A saying my dad used to always say was, man plans while God laughs. I had a plan for my life. Like, I was going to be, I'm talking about from as soon as I can remember my first thought, I'm going to be in the NFL. I'm going to be, a quarterback. Right. I'm gonna, my life was made.
I'm gonna have all this money. I'm gonna get any girl I want. I'm gonna have all these cars. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
I'm talking Beyonce is gonna be like, "Hey, what are you doing today?"
What's up?
Then Rihanna tomorrow. Like it was this plan I had for my life, and as I got older, obviously the plans got smaller, but I still continue to plan. Something that I do now, and I would recommend everybody doing. Every single night when I pray, what I used to do was say, God, allow me to pass this test. God, allow me to, meet this girl. God, allow, this date to go well, this day to go well. When I go to sleep every single night, what I pray for is for God's will to be done. Because he obviously knows what he's doing. I don't. Because if I knew what I was doing, I would be, I wouldn't be talking about Baker on the Browns. I'd be on the Browns right now. If I knew if I followed my plan, Beyonce would be hitting me up. She hasn't hit me up. I must have missed that call or something.
She don't want some bake.
Right. She doesn't want the AMP producer. She has a billionaire husband or something. It's interesting to me. God really did have that plan for me throughout this entire time. It was simply just up to me when I was able to stop playing God. I thought I was the one making things happen. No, God is in control. From the moment I wake up, God is in control. So
all right, welcome back. Time to move on to Brenda Frese. So Humble, you sent me this today, right? Because it went viral yesterday. And it's the Maryland women's basketball coach. She had a viral moment about, I'll play the clip right here and I'll get Humble's take on it. So that's a hell of a picture right there, Humble. Look at that. But actually, Humble, before I play this, why did this? Actually, no, I'll play it first and I'll get your thoughts on it. Never mind.
No, yeah.
Here's the interaction. You guys may have seen it. It's going viral with Brenda Frese going into a player. And from what it sounds like what she told the player was, quote, "I believe in you, but you got to win. You got to want this moment." And she's really like getting into this player here. So let's take a listen.
This is just a short time ago.
So that's that. That's the clip that everybody's seeing. I'm going to play one more time.
This is just a short time ago.
All right. So, Humble, I'll let you take it away from here.
Yeah.
Why did this stand out to you?
I'll be honest with you. The reason why it stood out to me is because all I was thinking about was, hey, if I click this comment button, I guarantee you I'm gonna see a whole bunch of nasty comments. Parents saying that this isn't the way that you should be coaching, that, etc. Blah blah blah. But and then we have that second video to react to too, Joe, right?
Yeah, you want to play that now?
No. Well, I just want to make sure. I wanted to say this. The reason why I feel as if this connected to me, and maybe a lot of other people too, is because how many times have I felt this way or seen this in my personal life? And some players respond differently to this. I really do believe it, because you'll have the players that will shake, and then you have the players that respond to it and actually need that to be motivated. And that's what I saw right there. If anything, I saw great coaching and passion, and I saw electrism. I can't get my words right. Just a fire inside of her. I just see that, and if I saw that and someone wanted me to just believe in myself in that moment, dude, that's enough for me to like go for a week straight, man. Because the passion that someone has for not only you, but then they have to go back to their own life, dude, that's a lot for that person to feel. And I salute to that coach. And I don't know. That's just how I feel, Joe. And then here's this clip.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, you're good.
I didn't know I was muted. No, what I said was I'm going to save my thoughts. I got a lot on this. I want to being involved in the coaching, or being around the coaching sphere now. I'll put it like that, and seeing a lot of this new modern day stuff. But you want to? I'll play your clip though first. You sent me this as well. Why do you want to get some insight to this real quick before we play it?
This is kind of like from like a player's perspective. I thought about this before we started the live. I just thought this would be a good segment to keep the conversation going. I wanted you to see this this little clip real quick. His story with Kobe Bryant. Jeremy Lin and Dwight Howard were on a podcast and kind of shared a story with Kobe Bryant. We all know how Kobe can be as far as
the famous story where he called his players soft like Charmin in practice.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so here's the clip.
But you know that famous clip when Kobe's like talking, or he told you to try that shot again or something like that. Like, how'd you feel in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally agree. It's like everybody has a different form of communication, and I'm the player. I actually do better when I'm yelled at, because I grew up with coaches who always yelled at me. So I actually, whenever I got yelled at, I played better. But it's nuanced. If you yelled at me and you're like, "Yo, what are you doing? Get your head out your ass! Like, lock in so we can win this game." Yeah. Like, it's like, you believe that if I lock in, we're gonna win this game because you believe in who I am. Yeah. Right. But if you're just talking down to me, yelling at me, talking down to me, like, yo, you like, it's like you have zero respect for me or whatever. Level. That hits me differently, where it feels like it's not like, yo, I believe in you and you're letting us down. Yo, wake the hell up. It's like, I can't stand you. Get out my, you know, and you know what I mean? Like, that type of energy was what kind of messed with me. Yeah. And I know, like, and I'm not disrespecting Kobe, because I fully acknowledge that he's 1,000 times the player that I am. But what I am saying is, even within the context of being a leader, like, what me and you were saying to him was not, we're smarter than you, we're better than you, or whatever. It was more just like, in this specific situation, here's a little bit of feedback that I felt like you could have handled it differently. You're not perfect, right? Like, and so it comes with so much respect for who he is. Yeah. Did he have to respect me, like, with the magnitude and the level of player he was? No, not necessarily. He didn't, you know, I understand why he would look at me and be like, yo, like, he's just, he's not getting it done for us. So, you know, it's again, I don't hold it now to this day. I'm just kind of, I've let it go, and me and him patch it up. But that is a concept. And so, similar to the story that you're talking about of Nick Young.
Yeah.
All right. So, your thoughts on that, Humble? Jeremy Lin, just kind of all this ties together.
I kind of wanted to put it back on you. How did you feel about that, actually, my brother?
So I guess on the Jeremy Lin thing, right? I get where he's going. I get where this kind of ties together. I think what I know about that situation, I know Nick Young said that when Jeremy Lin got in the locker room that day, he was damn near in tears. And Kobe, I think Kobe didn't respect people that, from what it sounds like, he didn't respect people that he felt like weren't on his, not to say on his level, but in terms of work ethic, maybe, or he felt like weren't paying it, or the attention to detail wasn't there, or the aggressiveness, like where they all needed him to be. And I think that's something that a lot of those kind of, when you're that talented and that great, you struggle to get everybody else to rise up to your level. Not everybody can get to your level. You're you're a genetic freak. B, you're the focal point of the franchise, and then C, not everybody's going to work as hard as you and everything. Not everybody has that same. Not everybody wants to be the greatest of all time. A lot of guys, they made it. They made it to the NBA and they got paid millions of dollars, and
that was it for them.
And they want to be good players and have careers. You know what I mean? Not like they didn't want to be scrubs, but it's like, everybody's goals and the pressure that people put on other, like Kobe had a lot of pressure when he came out because he was fresh out of high school.
Great point.
He put that on his back. I want to be just like Mike, and you play for the Lakers. You got to win. They have Shaq at the time. He had a lot of pressure, and he also sat on the bench for those first couple of years, had to wait his time. So everybody has a different process to get there too. So I think that's kind of what molds people differently, and why people maybe have a different viewpoint on, that situation. I think Kobe heard a lot of the Mike stories. Probably we saw that in The Last Dance, how hard Mike was, on his guys, calling guys hoes in practice, and shoot the ball hoe. He would say to who was the guy, nice guy, the backup for him, number 24 for the Bulls, and in that year, people probably know who I'm talking about. I gotta look this up now. It's gonna drive me nuts. But he had the guy that who was that guy? He was Bulls number 24. He was Jordan's guy. Let me look at the roster here. Somebody's probably saying it right now. They're listening to this. If you know back then, Scott Burrell. Scott Burrell was his guy. Scott Burrell was the backup two guard for Michael Jordan during those years. And if you saw in the Last Dance documentary, he went at Scott Burrell more than anybody. So, I mean, he went at everybody. He went off on Harper at starting point guard in some clips I saw.
Well, not to mention he used to go at Muggsy Bones too, calling him midget.
Yeah, I mean, he went at everybody, especially his teammates in practice. He really
if you got to see him the most in practice, I mean,
he practices to his eyes had to be a lot harder in the games, because he's like, in his eyes, you couldn't handle practice, you're not gonna be able to handle a game 6 or a game 7 on the road in Utah. You know what I mean? So I think, but his teammates said in that documentary though that, I think it was Bill Wennington said, was he an asshole a lot of times? Yeah, but guess what? It worked because we won. And they actually said, he was a hell of a teammate. And so Kobe, I think, from what I know about Kobe, from hearing former players that played with him, was that he was a little more. I think Jordan was a little more laid back and off the court than maybe Kobe. From what I know, and just my speculation. I think he was a little. I think there was some. I think Kobe's a little more stricter, if I'm being honest.
Well, Kobe didn't have that casino like Jordan had.
Like Jordan would go out and kick it all night. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kobe was up at 4 a.m. going to work out. You know what I mean?
Repping.
You know what I mean?
He was getting those reps in.
Yeah, like Jordan worked hard too, but Jordan liked to kick it. He liked to play golf. You know what I mean? He put his time in, but I think Jordan had a little more off the court life than Kobe did by a good
100%.
amount. So
100%.
I think just the personality. I think probably what threw off Jeremy Lin was probably just the way Kobe went about it. The way the stuff he said, and he probably felt like he was personally attacked. Like, you're trying to diminish me. We know who you are. You have that kind of power, so it's like whatever you say, it affects us. You know what I mean? And because the media is in there recording that day, like I think he felt probably just, and that's their business. I'm not gonna speak. He spoke right there, but he clearly it bothered him for years. I think going back to the Maryland coach, so I think the difference with her, and I think Kobe's intention was good. I think Kobe was trying to bring the best out of his team, and like, hey, we're losing games. Like, this ain't the standard. And I think sometimes that is necessary. Sometimes you need to go in and light a fire, and you get, especially when you were there before those guys got there, built the standard up, and kept it going, or was already built in LA, but you kept it going. And those guys went in there and kind of just, were living up to it and were satisfied with it, not living up to that. I think that's where he got angry. I just think he was also in the latter years of his career, didn't want to waste it. He was probably pissed off because they weren't doing maybe certain moves he wanted to make. I think it was a lot of things, right? He had a lot of, it wasn't just, I don't think that was just towards his teammates that day. I think it was a lot of it was towards maybe directed off the court too. That's some of the moves that Mitch Kupchak was making or wasn't making. So, I think it was a culmination of things. And I think with this situation though, I'm going to stick with the one point though, what Jeremy Lin said about a coach who, hey, you can light into me because you believe in me.
Yeah.
Like if I play better, we'll win this game. That's what she's doing there. And I think anybody that's attacking Brenda Frese today doesn't understand how high level sports really works. They've never been a part of it. They don't understand it. They're a me first person. I'm just gonna be brutally honest with you. I think you're probably a me first person when it comes down to it. At the end of the day, you don't understand sacrifice in sports and what it takes to win. You guys don't understand that she has relationships built with these players going.
Yes.
When they came to her, like the player responded to her. The player looked at her like it's her stepmom. Because a lot of these coaches, there are a lot of these coaches, there are their players' step parent. They're an extension of their parent because a lot of these kids are away from home. They don't live, they're off to college. Like you're investing your child into a program that you feel like is going to take good care of them. And so, I think Brenda Frese she has this relationship with this player. She has that trust with her player. And what did she said to her wasn't anything bad. She's
no
battle. It's an NCAA tournament game. It's win or go home. Her job's on the line every year. Like if they don't start playing up to the standard, like you guys remember too, coaches lose their job over this shit. So they have a standard too. They have bosses too. They got to live with. They got to they have to do their job. And I think what she's saying is like, you're built for this moment. And her quote was, "I believe in you, but you got to want this moment." And I think what she's probably saying is, we're out here bullshitting right now. We're being a little passive. We're not being as aggressive as we need to be. We're overthinking it. I think what she's just telling her is like, honey, you're built for this moment. Go out there and fucking take it. Like it's yours. Like don't. They're not better than you. If anything, she's instilling confidence into her player. So I love it. I have no problem with it. I had coaches like this growing up, and guess what? I went out there after. It was go time. It was blood. So but that coach also had a relationship with me. You know what I mean? Now, if she would have sat there and diminished her, like, and said like, you're out here bullshitting, like, just go sit on the bench. I don't want to be around you. You're a disgrace. I would say, okay, that's a little too far. You're just tearing her down. Your job as a coach is to gravitate your player, give them confidence and to inspire them, but also tell them the honest truth. Sometimes players fuck it up. You know what I mean? You got to tell them the truth. And I'm around this all the time now. And the athletes that I see, and I was going to be keeping 100 humble. The athletes I see are the ones that can be held accountable. The ones that are, I'm getting ahead of myself. The athletes that I see are the most successful nowadays with all this new NIL shit and high school. And you're being influenced by colleges constantly. And in college, you got the portal and you're getting NIL and blah, blah, blah. Even in the NFL, the athletes that I see that are the most successful are the ones that can be held accountable. They don't feel like they're above the program. They don't feel like they're above the coach. And they're coachable. That player right there is coachable. And clearly that Brenda Frese knows that. She knows she's coachable. That's why she's speaking to her like that. Because I'll just tell you one thing. It would have been even worse if she had said nothing to her at all, Humble.
Yes, sir.
If she would have said nothing to her at all, she don't believe in him. She would have said, so-and-so's doing their bullshit again. Nothing I can do about it. Motherfucker won't buy in. They probably don't come to, they're not showing. This is what happens. You come to meetings late and you don't take practice seriously. You don't buy in. I can't hold you accountable. She wouldn't have said anything to her at all. The fact that she said something to her like that is because that player is coachable and likes to be held accountable. So
100% agree.
And I think a lot of parents don't understand this nowadays. Everybody thinks their kid's the next, great thing, big thing coming up. So every time the coach, and even if the coach is, a proven coach with success, even though the coach is trying to do their job and hold them accountable, the parents want to get pissed off or people from afar will see this and go, oh my gosh, this is harsh. And, all this new,
Right.
woke era we live in, let's just call it what it is. All this, oh my gosh, you're too rough. And that's just mean. And, her mental health and blah, blah, blah. But, all this crazy stuff people throw out there nowadays. And I could talk about mental health all day because that's what I'm known for. But I do feel like people use it in a negative way now where it really doesn't apply to the situation. If you know what I mean, Humble.
No, this is exactly what we're talking about.
I think people like to use that as an out, but which is a disgrace for people to actually go through it. But I think there's a lot of parents out there nowadays that don't like accountability. They don't like to be held accountable themselves in their own lives. So they're damn sure not to let their kids be held accountable because they want their kids, everybody's kids, the next, big thing. They're a big star on TikTok. Look at my, 8th grader. He's number 1 in the world. Like anybody cares. Like who's ranking 8th grader or 8th grade? I mean, they weren't ranking 8th graders when I was in 8th grade. Or now it's even 8. They're even ranking 8-year-olds now. Like he's the next big thing. And, wait till you get a load of him. And it's like he gets up there. He's just an average Joe Schmo because he's not, everybody kid's the next LeBron. Everybody kid is the next Jeremiah Smith. It just, they don't, those guys are usually once in a lifetime guys. All right. They don't come off. They don't fall out of the sky that often. They're not around like that. So again, the players that I see, Humble, that have the most problems nowadays are the ones that can't be held accountable.
No, yeah. 100%.
And I think that's the biggest thing I take out of this. Can you be a coachable, and do you like accountability?
And that's what my former basketball head coach said in high school. He said, one thing I like about you, and you said the word, you took it right out of mouth. Are you coachable or are you not?
Yeah, and I feel like accountability has just been wiped out of not just sports, but society nowadays. Nobody can hold anybody accountable nowadays. Everybody's too sensitive, or, it's, you're being too mean because everybody wants to be told what they want to hear all the time. It's like I said last week, and it's a society. Anything you want now could be. Remember, we said this last week, Humble. Anything you want now, you can have access to in society on your phone. You can have food. You can have stuff. Anything brought to your door now delivered. This is what happens. You guys think that stuff? People laugh at that. Think, why that don't make any sense? Well, it actually all goes together, because it's like when you start to feel like you don't need anybody else, and if you don't need to go out, you don't need to work for anything. You don't need to earn anything anymore. You don't think accountability really matters. And when you're not, you can't be held accountable and be coachable, not just in sports, but in life. Yeah, you're going to start having some issues in a work environment, and a coach, any environment. As a parent with a kid playing sports, you should, you should want if I have a high level college girl or a high level high school athlete who's a basketball player, I'd want her to go play for Brenda Frese.
Right.
You know what I know Brenda Frese will do, Humble? She'll run in front of a bus for her players. I can already tell.
Right.
So, and I got a clip here from Houston. Obviously, they have a great men's basketball program. Kelvin Sampson, who is a winning coach. I've been to the national championship recently. I thought this kind of tied with the Humble. This is my clip I had that goes into it. If I can find it, unless I lost it already. Oh, no, I did it right here. So here's what Kelvin Sampson said about accountability recently.
I think the things that I try to impress upon young coaches, it doesn't matter whether you coach young men or young ladies. Doesn't matter. I think the coaches that fail at every level are the coaches that are passive aggressive. Passive aggressive coaches are usually afraid to hold kids accountable. You rationalize. If you're going to build a culture, the first thing you have to come to grips with is you're going to have confrontation, because you want it done your way. There are certain things that can be democratic, but most things that are difficult has to be your way. So consistency, being competent, having great confidence, owning your arena. And then the fourth thing is confrontation. Confrontation. I coached in the NBA for 6 seasons. and all the coaches that got fired, I'd always try to learn more from those guys than the other guys. Why are you guys getting fired? What is it you're not doing? Most of it's, overlook little things like touching the line. When you do a line drill, how many of you guys make them touch every line? Touching every line is a metaphor for life, right? Start taking shortcuts. Kid gets tired in the practice. He runs in here, stops there, and he goes. You let that go? Okay. You start letting that go, then that kid may never touch the line. So
I think he nailed it right on that. You got a thought on that, Humble?
No, I'll tell you what, man. Who?
I think Humble might have cut out. Oh, now we got you. Go ahead.
Confidence.
You there, Humble? I know maybe Humble might have cut out, but if he comes back here in a second, I'll let him go. I think with Kelvin Sampson, what he said here kind of goes in what I was just talking about. I mean, he said it right there, confrontation. He said the coaches that got fired in the NBA are the ones that are least confrontational. They were passive-aggressive, right? And I'm going to be honest with you guys, going back to what I said earlier about Kevin Stefanski, he was very passive-aggressive for what it sounded like. Wasn't very confrontational. And it cost him his job in the end. And so, I think with going back with Brenda Frese, what she did, I have no problem with it because she's holding her players accountable. She's being confrontational, but she also has those relationships and buy-in from her players to begin with. She knows what she's doing. You guys don't all see that. The people on the critics on the outside don't understand how this stuff works. And so they just see it as, oh, this is bad, because society nowadays is we don't like to be held accountable. We like to just, have everybody tell us all the good things we want to hear and do it our way. It's got to go our way or it's got to go our way. That's what it's all about. Not about sacrifice anymore. It's all about everybody else. It's not about helping anybody else nowadays or building things. It's, what can you do for me now? I need to buy a championship. I need to buy success in life. I need to have everything handed to me, and do whatever it takes to achieve that. Also, I can please, also you can please the culture really and please, social media and go post it and look good, feel good and get all the likes. But, I'd rather be respected in life than liked. And so I think that's a mindset that really ultimately boils down to. A lot of people are just, they want to be liked rather than respected. So that's usually where a lot of those people fall into is that category. The opposite of a Kelvin Sampson, the opposite of a Brenda Frese. But I'd rather be respected. I'd rather win with dignity and class and, do it the right way. And so, again, a lot of my perspective today on this comes from just being around this stuff at the high school level and knowing a lot of things going on at the college level too. I talked to a lot of coaches and guys who were involved in all that stuff. So I have a pretty good opinion on it. And, a lot of what's going on nowadays, nobody wants to be held accountable. Everybody wants to do it their way. Everybody wants to, it's a, one-man circus now. It's all about what can you do for me first rather than what can you do for the team. And, a lot of good coaches nowadays are slowly starting to get phased out because this is kind of the new stuff that we want to promote, and I think a lot of administrations, if we keep it on 100, I think a lot of administrations don't like coaches like this either because they feel like they can't, they don't like people they can't control and can't, there's a lot of great coaches out there that can't get jobs in colleges. And then a lot of great coaches can't get jobs in the NFL because they don't want to go, they don't go along to get along. They're like Kelvin Sampson. They have one way of doing it that they feel like is the right way. Doesn't mean they're, gun ho my way or the highway, but just they have, what he said there, that's the formula to have a successful program and as a real sustained success. All the great programs and teams in the league, right, in the NFL or NBA or college level and high school level, they all have that. That's why they're sustained success every year. It's not just talent. They develop talent and they get the best out of guys that other schools can't, and they know how to manage it properly. So, I think this is a great topic today that Humble brought in. I think Humble he was out in his car. I think he might have lost connection, had to dip, but it's all good stuff from Humble. Great stuff today on this show from him. And shout out to all you guys on the playback as well. If you will come back, listen on the playback, let me know your thoughts in the comments on what do you think the Browns should do with the 6th pick in the draft. There's a lot of different scenarios we talked about today. I'm curious what you guys think. Would you trade down? Would you stay at 6? Would you go tackle? Would you go receiver? Let me know in the comments what you would do. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share, because we'll be breaking it down with more content and more reaction and coverage around the Browns and the draft coming up. So we'll have a lot more of these conversations, too, about the real-life things like that as well. So appreciate Hummel for bringing that up to the show today. And maybe we'll get more thoughts from him next time when he's in a better spot with connection and stuff. So love all you guys. Like, subscribe, share all the good stuff, and I'll see you the next one. I'm out of here.
Bye.